In the small lakeside town of Ashford, New Hampshire, lived Henry Walker, an 82-year-old widower known to most locals simply as Old Henry. He was quiet, polite, and always had time for a friendly chat. Few people knew that behind those warm blue eyes lay a dream Henry had carried since he was a boy, a dream that had never been fulfilled, the dream that never died. Henry grew up in the 1950s, when American roads were filled with the sound of roaring engines and chrome beauties. At 14, he worked part-time at a mechanic's shop, sweeping floors and fetching tools for older men who spent their lives under the hood. He would stand in awe, watching them bring dead engines back to life. One night, Henry's father, a war veteran, told him, "Son, life will try to take your dreams away. Don't let it. If you have something you love, chase it until your last breath." Henry promised himself that one day, he'd build a car from scratch, his own masterpiece. But life had other plans. He was drafted into the Vietnam War at 19. When he returned, he married, raised 3 kids, and worked long hours at a local sawmill to put food on the table. The dream was pushed to the back of his mind. By the time he retired at 65, Henry's wife, Margaret, had fallen ill. He spent the next 10 years caring for her until she passed away peacefully in their home. After that, Henry found himself alone, with a small pension and more empty days than he knew what to do with. A forgotten shell in a barn one summer afternoon. Henry was driving through the countryside when he spotted an abandoned barn with its doors half open. Inside sat the rusted shell of a 1951 Hudson Hornet, the car that had captured his heart as a boy. The paint was gone, the seats were torn, and weeds grew through the tires. Most people would have seen junk. Henry saw destiny. The farmer who owned the barn agreed to sell it for $300. Henry drained his small savings and had it towed to his garage. The work begins at first. Henry had nothing but determination and a small set of tools. Parts were expensive, and he had no extra income. So, he began doing odd jobs around town, repairing fences, mowing lawns, even sharpening knives for local restaurants. People thought he was crazy. "Henry, you should be enjoying your golden years," one neighbor said. Henry just smiled. This is my golden year." A young friend and a social media spark one day, a 17-year-old named Logan, who lived 2 houses down, stopped by to see what Henry was working on. Logan loved cars but had never seen anyone so dedicated. He began visiting daily, learning everything Henry knew about engines, wiring, and bodywork. Logan started taking photos and videos of their progress and posting them online. Slowly, strangers began to notice. Within months, Henry's project had thousands of followers. People sent messages of encouragement, stories of their own abandoned dreams, and even car parts. A retired mechanic from Arizona mailed a set of original Hudson hubcaps. A collector from Ohio sent an authentic steering wheel. The setback that almost ended it just when the car was halfway restored. Henry suffered a stroke. He was rushed to the hospital, and for weeks he couldn't speak clearly or walk without help. Doctors told him he might never fully recover. Henry thought about quitting. The car sat untouched in his garage, gathering dust again. But one day, Logan visited with a thick envelope. Inside were printed letters and drawings from hundreds of Henry's online followers. One letter read, "I'm 68 and thought I was too old to start painting again. But watching you work on that car gave me the courage to try. Please don't stop, Henry, we're all rooting for you." Henry gripped the letter in his trembling hands. That night, he made a decision. If he had to crawl to the garage, he would finish that car. The final push recovery was slow, but Henry returned to the garage in a wheelchair, giving Logan instructions while he handled the heavy lifting. Word spread in the community, and soon volunteers, teenagers, veterans, mechanics came to help. Over the next 14 months, the Hudson Hornet was reborn. Its body gleamed with deep ocean blue paint. The chrome sparkled, the engine purred like it had in 1951. When the final piece, the Ohio steering wheel, was installed, Henry just sat behind it, tears streaming down his face. The big revealed the town organized a Hudson Day to celebrate. Main Street was lined with people, news, cameras rolling. Logan drove the restored Hornet slowly down the road, Henry waving from the passenger seat. A reporter asked him, "Henry, what would you tell people who think they're too old to chase their dreams?" Henry smiled and said, "You're never too old to dream and never too old to begin. I started this at 78. Finished at 82, and I've never felt more alive." A legacy that outlived him. The story went viral. Millions watched videos of old Henry's Hudson, and thousands of people wrote saying they had gone back to hobbies, passions, and goals they'd abandoned decades ago. 2 years later, Henry passed away peacefully in his sleep. Logan kept the Hudson Hornet, driving it every Sunday in honor of his mentor. At Henry's funeral, Logan spoke, "He taught me how to fix cars, but more than that, he taught me how to live with purpose, no matter the age." And so, Henry's dream lived on, not just in a restored car, but in every person who decided, after hearing his story, that it was never too late. Moral of the story: Age doesn't decide what's possible, your heart does.